Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Trader Merlin Show. It is your Friday edition. Happy Friday out there, everybody. And as has been the recurring theme since I've been broadcasting from home, it's Celebratory Friday. So I want to wish you all a very happy Friday, happy hour as well. Today was one of those weeks where I think the cocktail or the drink should be reflective of the week that I've had. Not only have I had a lot of fun with you guys this week on the program, but my trading has been phenomenal this week. Hopefully you guys had some great moves. So I decided to step it up. A friend of mine bought me this a few years back. We're stepping up to the Blantons today. To me, this is a top shelf bourbon. I hope that y'all have a nice frosty beverage. If you don't drink it all, that's fine. Have yourself a nice glass of water. But cheers, happy Friday, and let's get the show started. All right, now let's take a look at our top 7 markets real quick. Sam Evans will be our guest here in just a little bit, so I'm going to try to rifle through this pretty quick and keep some semblance of sobriety as we go through today's show. I'll start off with our left-hand side of the screen here and start with the worst performer. Again, it's that 10-year. The 10-year has just been bobbing back and forth between being the best and the worst out there. Today, as you can see, as soon as I can bring that chart up, it might seem like I'm intoxicated. Where did my ZN go? There it is, way up there. You have the yields drop again. Now, we're at 0.587 on that 10-year yield, and I'll put the watermarks on so you guys can see what I'm looking at here. Yes, I know. I take them off to take screenshots for different things that I'm working on. There's your 10-year, and we've been talking about it drifting closer and closer to this high from early March. Well, it's getting closer and closer, my friends. You're at 0.587 on that yield. That was a slide of 6% today. The day for the 10-year. Now, indexes, Russell 2000. Russell was down about 3.11%, 33-point slide. As you can see here, it still has a ways to go until it gets down to those lows that we achieved in mid-March. But all in all, an ugly day for the Russell, the Dow, the NASDAQ, and the S&P. Now, the Russell was certainly the worst performer. Dow Jones was down 1.69. NASDAQ Composite, I'm going to show you the 100 right here. That was down 1.53% for the composite. Still holding rather well, though. You notice it's really not breaking down. So to me, although we finished negative on the day, it doesn't paint a very negative picture for the market itself. Why? Simply because it's holding and making higher lows out there. So even though you had the NASDAQ looking weak, it's still rather positive. Now, the S&P, a similar story. Here's your S&P 500. It also is holding those lows today. In full disclosure, I was short S&P today. I had 3 S&P short yesterday. I told you guys on the show. I closed those out, unfortunately, because it continued to drop in my favor. Son of a, oh well. We enjoy getting out of those positions when it makes us a nice little profit. That was your number 4. Number 3 brings us over to Bitcoin. And I know we'll probably talk a little about cryptocurrencies today as an alternative investment. We had a 1.5% gain out there for Bitcoin. I know the numbers seem odd, but 1.05% gain in the last 24 hours on Bitcoin, 6,771. And yes, it is an alternative investment, which we'll probably discuss today. All right, 2 left. Next, we go from digital gold to physical gold. Looking at the GC contract, as that one loads up here, creeping back up a little bit towards that 1,700 mark. Today, we had gold hitting 1648, a gain of 0.68%, which actually put it in 3rd place. I know I'm jumping the order. Right now, you're at 1647, so down $1 in the after-hour session, but not bad considering it was an up day for one of those assets. Now, last one, and you guys know I've been holding 3 crude oil contracts long, so I was short 3 S&P, long 3 crude oil. Oh, boy, I tell you. I don't know if I'm going to regret this one in the morning, but I closed out all 3 of those crude oil futures contracts today. That's on the CLM20, so we're looking a little bit further down the road. That's already pricing it in at about $31 right now. As you can see, the current continuous contract is at $28, so they're definitely thinking higher prices in the next few months. So crude oil on the day showing huge gains, 13.67%. I mean, in just a couple of days, if you look at this CL chart here, we've gone from a hair over 20, right, about $20, all the way up to a high today, intraday, of $29. So you're looking at almost a 50% gain in crude oil in 2 trading sessions. Yeah, you talk about being on the right place at the right time. And who knows? I do think we'll fill that gap here eventually on crude oil, but maybe we'll save that discussion for another time. All right, I'm out of breath. Time for a sip of whiskey out there. Okay, so it is our weekend edition. It's also a change of pace because normally we have John O'Donnell on the old Power Trading Radio for our Fridays. Today I'm going to do things a little bit different. We have a guest joining us who's been on the program once, this program one time. We did a little bio introduction, explained about his trading style, etc. Today I thought we'd do something a little bit different. Talk about some of the investment styles, some of the different things that he's looking at, and maybe go through all your listener questions. So without further ado, we have Sam Evans joining us today.
What's up, Merlin? How are you doing, my friend? I'm jealous. You having a nice kind of bourbon there.
Yes, I'll make it.
I respect you for taking that neat though. It's my wife's birthday tomorrow, and we're kind of having a little kind of virtual quiz night tonight with some of our friends. So I'll be making myself an old fashioned tonight. Although I wouldn't use something as good as what you're drinking in an old fashioned, but still, I'll be there with you a little bit later.
There you go. I appreciate that. Hey, sometimes you just got to celebrate, and there's times in trading where nothing happens, and your days are like, great, I might go to Pabst Blue Ribbon because nothing's moving, and then there's other days where you're going, I'm going top shelf just as a celebratory thing. So,
and don't you find the days when you do the best are the ones where you seem to put the least amount of effort in?
Yeah.
Like, I just thrown out. I mean, I've always said, people say, how do you know when you're having a bad day? When I'm having a bad day, everything feels like an effort. It just feels like this is a slog. This is, and knowing when to stop then, because the best days I have take no effort whatsoever. Have you found that over the years, mate?
100%. I'm actually, today was that exact situation. I was, in these two positions from last night, and basically it was just waking up and monitoring those and just saying, okay, let's babysit them. It's unfortunate because on the CLM 20 today, unfortunately I can't bring that contract up. I'm trying to bring it up for you guys, but I ended up bailing. I want to say it was at 29.47 or 29.57, and it ended up rallying all the way up to 31 and change at the close. And you're like, oh god, I left another $8,000 on the table. It's okay. You'll do fine. Your Friday went well. So yes, you're right. Some of the best ones are where you just sit back and let it do its thing and keep your hands off it.
We talked about that as well, didn't we? Like, sometimes you just got to accept. It's just like, what the end is, you want consistency. Sometimes you got to be grateful for what you get. But me, I'm not a big fan of holding things over the weekend early into a trade. And so, especially the way things are at the moment, I don't think you did a bad thing there. Cool. Let's put it this way, mate. I don't feel sorry for you. All right.
I'm not asking for any sympathy or sorries out there. I don't need that. Real quick, let me give a round of shout outs to some of our viewers out there. Welcome back, Ruben. Good to have you back with us. Hello, Brendan. Irina. All right. We will talk about swing trading today. Arena says, anyone here a swing trader? We'll look at that here in a second. Boss Poopa, good to have you with us, my friend. Nat, Jorge. Let's see what else we got in there. We're going way back. There were some comments early on. Karen as well. Natalia, good to have you guys. If I missed your name, sorry. Kev Plow as well. And Frankie Shops. Happy Friday, my friends. All right. Oh, that's not John O'Donnell. We're going to have to get rid of that text right there. Let me just real quickly change this because I have the ability to change things on the fly because that certainly would not be John O'Donnell. Walk us through a little bit of your thinking on alternative investments. That was certainly the topic for today is alternative investments. And most people cut their teeth. They're greenhorns. They start off in equities. And I want to run the full spectrum. I don't want to just talk about the obvious things like Forex, but let's start with the centralized things that have centralized exchanges where there's always liquidity.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. It's a great time to discuss these things. I mean, I've been a multiple asset class trader over the years. I mean, I know I've been known well for the Forex side of things, but, I've been active in options and futures. I mean, and now, and the really cool thing is you see a lot of overlap between the futures and the options, and the equities where you've got different ways of being able to participate in those markets. Let's start with the first one. You've been talking about it so far. I think crude is potentially an alternative investment right now. And straight off the bat, I'm thinking to myself, and I was having this conversation with a buddy of mine the other day, and he's like, crude, it's going to probably go low. I'm like, listen, things are going to pick up. You can't have that herd mentality of selling after everybody else sells and buying after everybody else buys. That's not an edge. And I'm like, if I put it right now, what do you think is going to be really more valuable to you in, let's say, 2 years from now? You got the opportunity to spend $30 on a steak, okay? And you ain't going to get a great steak for $30, let's be honest. But you're going to spend $30 on a steak, or you want to spend $30 on a barrel of oil. What do you think's more value in a year or two? And he kind of got it, I had to talk to him in that kind of real broken down way of looking at it. But I'm like, if I was a company right now and, I'm going to rely on oil and it's a major commodity, it would be silly for me to not buy oil. I mean, look at Southwest Airlines. Look how they took it all the way to the next level and basically beat all their competition because they were the ones buying oil when it was dirt cheap in 2009, right? Yep. When everybody else was like tied into futures contracts, taking delivery of oil at over $150. What did they do? They took their inventory in cheap. They slashed their prices. They undercut everybody else, and the rest is history. So for me, when you take a raw commodity like that, always an interest. A lot of the natural gas you see very cheap as well. Have you got a chart? Let's look at copper for us again. I'm just seeing if I've got a chart that I can pull up on copper as well right now as well. Copper's not one of those things I see going away. Let's take a look at it right now on here. My father-in-law's been a scrap metal dealer all of his life as well. But I'm not being funny. You look look at copper, it's in a nice holding pattern right now. Now, that thing's been going down for a very, very long time. Would I like to see it maybe a little bit cheaper? Absolutely. But, again, look how it's held around the $2 mark.
Right.
And again, for a long-term thing, you can buy copper a lot cheaper than you can buy gold, and it's going to be needed. So I think it's good to open up your mind to some of these alternative investments in the world of commodities.
Yeah, I agree. When we on that thread, on that vein there, when we look at alternative investments, I think it's important to understand when we talk about alternative investments, guys, we're just looking at different ways that we can access some market, whether it's centralized like Forex or futures or equities, or decentralized, which would be something like, Brendan was asking earlier about, things like arts and music and cars. That's a different ballgame, and I think we have to understand the risks and reward of those different investments. What's nice about this first step that you took, Sam, which was into crude oil, I don't think people might think of that as an alternative investment because they go, it's a futures product, therefore it's normal. I would argue that anything other than equities would be an alternative investment. And the reason that you might want to seek that is this. And I have to be careful because I'm pretty sure the FTC is listening to every word that we say nowadays. The potential for reward in some of these alternative products is much higher because of leverage. Equity markets are pretty much locked down with regards to leverage. If you're a day trader, you get 4-to-1 intraday. If you are a position trader, you get 2-to-1 overnight. That's not great leverage. In equities, it's minimal. In futures and options, it's 8, 10, 12, maybe 15-to-1, depending on the product. So you get a more bang for your buck. To be fair, the danger here for everyone who doesn't understand these instruments is if something can make you money, let's say 2 or 3 or 4 times faster, it can lose you money 2, 3, or 4 times faster. So if discipline is a challenge for you, go back to stocks and stay there until you've established discipline, you have rules in place, and you know that you are going to take your lumps when they come your way. All right, sorry, I had to get that disclaimer out there because we know the FTC is watching.
Absolutely, and that's what it's all about. But that's the message on the show, and anybody who like yourself, myself, who's been involved in education for years knows that you got to understand the pros and the cons with everything. But what I do love today is there's so many different products out there, and people can start small in any of these leverage asset classes. And as long as you start small and then you build up. But I mean, you made a great point. I mean, with that as well, like with equities and so on. I think company ownership's a wonderful thing, Merlin. I really, really do. Dividend yield, great, all of that, the things you can do with options on it. But the problem is you just don't get that return on investment. And that's what people don't get. It's like the problem is I don't get, even now, I don't see stocks as a bargain still. I think they're still overpriced.
there might be, this is the thing, this is why I love having people like you on, is because there's different people out there. There are some guests right now that are going to say, hey, you know what, there are some screaming deals in the equity market. But you have to be, it's like saying that there's jewelry hidden at the beach because people leave their watches and their rings on the beach and they lose them. Yeah, it's there, but if you don't have the right tools or know how to look for it, you're never going to find it. So yes, for Sam and I.
Yeah, and people don't understand leverage. Like back to your comment you made about the FTC, and I know they're doing the right thing with that and everything, making sure it's done right. But what a lot of people don't understand is actually leverage can be a good thing.
Yes.
You take take options, for example, okay? So, I mean, I don't know if you've got access to it right now, of anything, but let's just say, do you have an options chain in front of you at all?
I don't have an options
chain.
Well,
let's just make an example up right now. Premiums are a lot higher, and I don't want to lose anybody who's not familiar with this. But let's say I took an interest right now in going and buying like Disney, all right? Disney's price, close price around, the bid on the close was $93.85 today, right? And, Disney, I think, is probably going to come down a little bit more with the park closures, but I don't think, it's going to go anywhere. Let's just say right now I decided I wanted to buy that thing at $90 a share, right? And I want to go into that thing at $90 a share. Well, all right, I go buy myself 100 shares, okay? There's a $9,000 investment I'm making straight off of the bat, okay? And I'm tied in with that. And, at the end of the day, that money that's tied up, that potentially is at risk, okay? If anything that happens, just buying a few shares of that. I could go and buy an option and pay a premium on that. There'll be a fraction of the cost. And I've got still the same involvement, but I don't have the same capital outlay. And people argue, well, with an options contract, you've got 100 shares, right? That, you're controlling, and there's the leverage. But if the premium's so much cheaper, you're controlling 100 shares, not putting the whole face value of the shares down. Right. So ironically, I could end up going and buying, an option for, say, $1,000 when the actual investor themselves is laying out $9,000. God forbid it goes bankrupt. Who's going to be better off? The options trader.
Yeah.
So people don't understand leverage, I think, Merlin, and that's where and that's why I think the education is needed to be out there to learn the safe way and the right way to do it.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing that's important for me, and this is obviously something we talk about in all of our classes, is you have to understand the risks associated with all these different asset classes. And yes, people don't understand leverage, but the average person that walks in off the street, and it's not our audience that's watching this right now, because the audience here are people who are active. I'm talking about your typical people who don't even know what their 401k is. When they hear something like that and they hear, oh well, you get 10-to-1 leverage, all they're thinking of is, wow, instead of making $100, I can make 1,000. And that's the problem, is people take that and they're saying, well, you told me I could make more money. No, you have access to more leverage, which could potentially, but I mean, you and I know darn well that most people, when they start, they just lose. That's just what they do, because they don't have experience, they don't have rules, they don't have a plan. And unfortunately, they want to blame somebody else. And I've had rants on that one before. But let's go from... personally, I am a huge fan of options. I love using options. I'm in options trades right now. I love the futures markets. I actually think it's probably my favorite market because of the 24-hour nature of it, the leverage, and stop losses not being jumped overnight. So you have two alternative investment groups there. What about Forex? Let's talk about spot Forex, because it's not truly a centralized exchange, but there are exchanges around that you could trade on, and that would be a big alternative investment.
Absolutely. And I think the Forex market, has just come on leaps and bounds. I mean, when I was first trading in Merlin, the smallest position size you could take was $100,000 lot, full size standard lots. Then like minis came in, now micros. And again, I think, if anything, you can only lose what you put in your account, right? So you start small and you build it. I think with the amount of liquidity that's in there as well, there used to be a little bit of a cowboy affiliation with the Forex market where everyone was like, oh, these brokers are wider than the spread. But the thing is this, today it's become such a highly competitive market, and it is the biggest market in the world, whatever anybody wants to say. It's such a huge market now that so many brokers have come in and have offered really good top quality services because they're in competition to keep their clients and the traders happy and do a good service by them. So, for me, the opportunity is absolutely there in the Forex market. And some of the moves you can see in that, wonderful. I mean, going back, again, things are different. We're in a different economical landscape. I mean, thinking back to 2008, when all the carry trades unwound, people were like, watching the S&P take a nosedive, yet at the same time, they were watching, the yen go through the roof, okay? Mm-hmm. You could have been long yen and had some fantastic trades, in that as well. And, there's some great currencies, like you take the Australian dollar, you take, Australian dollar, high producers of gold. You take, Canada, major production of oil. I call them the commodity currencies. Yep. Commodities having that relationship with the stock market. You could have a bleak outlook on the economic picture in the stock market, which is going to cause a major sell-off in commodities. And you could benefit from that by taking a short position on a major producer via their currency, like Australia or South Africa or Canada, for example. Mm-hmm. So, the more you understand about it, the more it makes sense. And it can be a bit overwhelming for a beginner, but man, I love the fact I feel safe holding Forex overnight. I love the fact I've only really got to worry about a gap on the weekend, and I can put something on a Sunday and hold that through all the way till the close on Friday and know that my stops will get honored. I got stopped out during the British election that we had last year, and it was volatile, but minimal slippage. It was volatile, but minimal slippage because it's such a big market. I think it's like nearly $4 trillion a day of liquidity.
Drop in the bucket.
It's always going to. Do you know what I mean? And then people go, and then the irony is people think that's risky, and they say, "Oh, but penny stocks, they're great." And it's like, "Oh my God, there's the biggest risk you can possibly have."
Right.
Get stuck in a position. There's no on the other side of it. Right. That's one thing I won't advocate. Penny stocks are not a good alternative investment. And the reason I say that is,
but I'll tell you what, Sam. There's a bunch of people out there. I don't want to mention any names because one of them is very litigious and loves to sue people for any sort of comments about him. I won't mention his name. Mm-hmm. But all they do is penny stocks, and that to me is straight up gambling. And the viewers here love it because they know I'm not going to address that. I'm not going to be promoting penny stocks in this program. I mean, only way I ever promote it is that should be with 100% gambling money. If you're trading penny stocks, there's a reason that they're penny stocks, right? It's there
because no one wants them.
Load up the boat.
I always say they wouldn't be, if anyone wanted them and there's any value people are buying, they wouldn't be pennies. Right. Like, go use the logic, right? But everyone wants to find the next Microsoft, the new Apple, and they think they're taking on a crazy risk. I've done it myself, Merlin. I bought a penny stock. I'm going back maybe 20 years ago, mate, and I bought a penny stock, and I remember buying this thing for about 6 pennies. This was in the UK. I took I think about £5,000 of money, bought the stock for a penny share, bought as many shares as I could. Congratulations, I was a major shareholder, right? And then I held the thing for about 6 months. And it went from 5p to 6p to 7p, back down again. And after about 6 months, it was still at 5 pence.
Yeah.
So I sold it. but I sold it at market. Guess what? I got filled at 3.
Yep.
So I lost,
Slippage.
I lost 40% of my money, and the thing hadn't even moved because there's no bid and there's no offer. People don't get that. You need a buyer, you need a seller. So I don't want to go on about it. I don't want to even give it time because anyone can get lucky buying a penny stock, and anyone can go down the track and bet on a horse that they like because the name, resonated with them.
No
That's
way. We've already given penny stocks too much time. Let's leave that stuff alone.
Absolutely.
I want to ask you. I want to ask you about other alternative investments. Before we shift there, I want to get this question from Jorge. He says, I'm a Forex trader and I have not experienced any crazy moves with my currency pairs. Do you think that the currencies are in a safe side for now? And those currencies like the USD CAD, Aussie dollar, which are related to oil and gold, are they on the safe side?
Are they on the safe side? I mean, it depends on what you're talking about. On the safe side, can I get in and out? Because I feel like with any of the majors, if you go with any of the majors, US dollar, euro, Japanese yen, Canadian dollar, all the major currencies that we know, any combination of a pair of those, you're going to be safe from a liquidity perspective. Right. I feel, getting in and out. So from, I would say, day-to-day safety, absolutely. If he's asking more about the question of volatility, then you're probably going to see a little bit more volatility in those commodity currencies again, because the Canadian dollar, the Australian dollar, there's a high tie with the New Zealand dollar's always had a little bit more volatility in it because there's an extra factor to weigh that in. I'm just actually taking a look right now. I mean, one of the biggest movers usually has always been, look, talk about safety on here. One of the bigger movers is the pound New Zealand. Even to me, I'm looking at pound New Zealand right now, which has always been one of the most violent movers of all of the currency pairs I've traded. That thing's not even doing a whole lot. Right. I think that you are seeing a lot of ranging opportunities right now in the currency markets because truly everybody's looking at the US dollar as like the safe haven, but then there's questions of, is it the only safe haven? Right. No one knows right now out there, Merlin. So you're seeing a lot of holding patterns right now. I mean, I would argue even the indexes right now are just dropping and then in a holding pattern. They rise a bit, they're in another holding pattern. Yeah. I wouldn't even be surprised to see another rally in the markets. I'm eyeballing 2,700 on the S&P, then I think we'll get another leg down. Okay. I'll just put it out there, okay? Another little pop and everyone will think it's great and then off it goes. But again, if I look at like the pound New Zealand, I look at the euro, I look at it all in a holding pattern. If you can be disciplined and play those ranges, I think they're very safe to trade from a trading perspective, as in they're not too volatile, and also safe to trade because of a liquidity perspective as well.
So to Jorge's question, we've got the chart there, that's the Aussie, that's the British pound New Zealand dollar, and it doesn't look that volatile. But to go back to his question, he was talking about AUD USD.
Let's go to that. Yeah,
this move in the Aussie dollar in the last 4 days, that's a hell of a move. I mean, I don't know what you're looking for there, Jorge, but that's a big move in 4 days. And, I think that you can automatically expect anything to do with oil and gold, more work so with gold, with oil, to have extreme volatility. I mean, we're seeing percentage moves in crude oil that I've never seen, and it's jaw-dropping. So this, to me, it would be almost an abnormal move for Australian dollar. Granted, you've seen some moves on this chart where it moves a lot, but if you're positioned correctly, that's a huge amount of opportunity on this Aussie dollar. It's not trending sideways. I mean, it's definitely got movement to it. And what was the other one you mentioned? Let's see, it was USD CAD. Let me bring up that one just to see what that chart looks like.
Again, those commodity currencies, right. They're the ones that are going to have the bigger movements because of their commodity relationships. Yep. Yeah,
absolutely. It conveniently came right up to that high we achieved back in this is a monthly you're looking at. Boy, we came spiking up last month. I didn't mean looking on the monthly. I usually don't look at Forex on monthly, guys. But your 2016 February we came screaming up to that same level, right around 1.47. All right, now we got that question out of the way. Let me ask...
and by the way, here's the other good thing as well. You can go on small size.
Sure.
That's the other beautiful thing about it. Take a small account, go on real small size, dip your toe in the water. I've adapted my trading strategies over the last few months, but I've traded the same way. I've just cut down my size and I've got bigger stops and bigger targets. So volatility can work if you adapt to it, and you've got the ability to do that with Forex.
It's funny. We had that same conversation with Brandon Wendell on Wednesday, which was share size is the ultimate way to control your risk. So keep that in mind, everybody. Lewis says, wait, what? USD a safe haven? Let's just say that the USD is the prettiest horse at the glue factory. That's pretty much what it is.
Where else you going to go? Where else you going to go? What, you think Ireland's economy's any better? You think Great Britain's economy's any better? Whatever it is, I mean, look, I sit on both sides of it. This is my home now, but I'm a Brit, if you didn't realise that by now, guys. I'm London born and raised. I love my country. This is my home now. I'm loyal to both and everything. But I got to say, I'm much happier and feeling a lot safer in this economy than I am in the one back in the UK right now.
Yeah.
And, there's a whole lot, you've got to think about that. The numbers don't lie. And I'm not saying it's a great haven. I think it's probably, there's a few leaks in the roof, but it's going to keep you relatively dry. Because most of them don't even have a roof to shelter under, and until the world finds something else, and look, brings up the whole cryptocurrency thing, right, Merlin? We were chatting about earlier on. There's a lot of talk of that while we're on the alternative investments. Will cryptos become the new alternative? Will they become the new standard by currency? Well, someone's going to have to make some serious commitment to that and show that they have faith in it. And I haven't yet seen that as well. I haven't. There's movement.
Yeah, you're seeing institutions start to step in. I think, and this is where we bridge this one little area of uniformity, and that's centralized exchanges. We could make the argument that trading cryptos right now is the exact same as trading spot Forex, because you're literally trading with one exchange, and it may not be reflective of all the other exchanges. So in that sense, I think that there is a similarity there. I, for one, am a fan of trading cryptocurrencies. I think if you have the right platform, you can do it just, like on TradeStation now, you can trade cryptocurrencies and a few others.
How is it, Merlin? How is it? You tell me. How is it? I'm asking you now as a consumer. How was it? How's your experience been of trading it on the likes of TradeStation, cryptocurrency? Have you done that?
Not on TradeStation. I was using Coinbase Pro was the one I was using.
Okay.
I was using Binance. Some of the interfaces are a bit clunky. I'm actually probably going to open up a TradeStation one because I use TradeStation for a bunch of my trades, so why not have everything there?
Me too, yeah. Me too.
But, once you understand, let's say, core strategy, or you have a set of rules in place and you understand your rules and discipline, it's applicable in anything, especially I'm more of a trend guy. So once something starts moving, I'm looking forward to jumping on that. And they tend to run, just like a currency pair would. So I think that the option of, not the option, no pun, of using cryptocurrencies as an alternative investment is a great thing. The problem there is when we look at Forex, the pound's not going away, the euro, the yen, the Canadian dollar, but some of these cryptos might go away. One flaw in the architecture could create the whole thing to collapse. That's the only asterisks I have for cryptos. Other than that, I'm a fan of them as an alternative investment, but they're very volatile and just, to me, very risky of losing your private key or something like that.
And is it a fad? Like, is it a trend? Like, is it fashionable? Like, the reason I bring that is, while we're on the subject of alternative investments, okay, I have a 10,000 comic book, 10,000 individual comic books, all like pristine, all packaged down. They weren't worth very much, going back 15 years ago, but now they are because of all the Marvel universe and all the movies that came out. There's a need for that. I've collected figurines. Friends of mine collect wine, art. While a lot of that as well is, I think, viable too, there's also the trend, and it can be fashionable as well, and while I think there can be some very cool things that you could get, and some great wines, art comes in and out of fashion as well. The things is, the whole comic book thing could die off too. The one thing is why I always go back to the centralized markets, and I think there are enough opportunities in the centralized markets, is because they're never going to go out of fashion per se. People are always going to be buying stocks. People are always going to be buying currency. Yes. People are always going to be buying commodities. And that's, again, in its nature, to me, makes it safer, Merlin, I mean, if anything, one of my buddies, he turned around and he goes, well, I think the best alternative investment right now is ammunition. And I'm like, dude, let's not go down that path. I mean, he thinks the apocalypse is happening right now, and please God it's not, But, I'm just like, I can see where he's coming from on all this. But, again, real estate for me, Merlin, will always be a great, but I don't see that as an alternative. I see that as another foundational investment. My problem with the real estate market is, and I've been a real estate investor myself for years as well, is I wish I could put a stop loss on my portfolio with real estate, but I can't. It's just not liquid the same way.
Yeah.
But on the other way, again, much like a stock, if you can take the heat and you can hold it and you can get the dividend, and in a real estate portfolio, the dividend is my rent. I rode it right through the 2008 crisis, and I held on to all my houses, and my renters carried on paying my money to me and everything, and it was all good. So yeah, I think for ease of getting in and out, you're never going to find anything better than a centralized market. That's just my humble opinion. And for anybody starting out who hasn't got the capital, Merlin, you can't just go and buy the roof and the doors of the house. You have to buy the whole thing.
Right.
Whereas you can go and buy shares, you can go and buy lots, you can go and buy single contracts. And there's so many great products out there right now. For me, good alternative investments are the centralized ones: futures, options, Forex, alongside stocks.
But there's there comes a time when you have to say opportunity is knocking, and this is you talk about how real we are right now. If you look at right now, what are the hottest commodities out there? I know Brendan in our group here can go, it's gold and silver. No, it's toilet paper, and it's weightlifting equipment. It's weightlifting equipment. I'm telling you, if you have weights around your house, let's say you paid $30 for a barbell, you could sell it on eBay right now for probably $150. Every store is out. You have your own gym?
We have to go for a wander now. We have to go for a wander, don't we now? Here we go. So this is the Evans household.
Oh, how much you want for that?
Here we go. Look, all my Olympic plates, all my dumbbells.
Wow.
Everything in here. Full gym, all in the house.
Holy
there you
cow.
go.
I'm telling you what, you cannot find that equipment for sale right now. It literally is not for sale in a store. You have to go to a secondary market, and they're charging double, triple. So thank you for the tour there. But
and here's my announcement. My new alternative business is selling weightlifting equipment. Yeah. I wanted to announce it to the world. Here we go.
But you know, it's funny because that's what we do, right? I mean, normally we're looking at a price chart to identify what's in vogue and what's going to be in favor. But, you know, I saw on eBay the other day a 48-pack of toilet paper going for $72.
I saw a bag of flour going for 350 British pounds on eBay.
I mean, it's insane.
You can't find plain flour anywhere, my friend. You can't find it anywhere.
That's nuts. Now. And, you know, crazy, it's funny because Brendan was asking about all these different investments, you know, art and cars. Right. Anything can be an alternative investment. The criteria for it being alternative investment is you have to have somebody out there who's willing to buy it from you. Because you may think your first edition of Asterix and Obelix comic books is worth, $50,000 a copy. But if no one's going to pay you for it, it's worthless. So what's great about our centralized exchanges, guys, your stocks, your futures, your Forex options, is it's centralized. You can see the buyers lining up. I'm not a fan of art personally. I do like wines. I'm a collector of whiskey as well. So for me, I wouldn't look at my whiskey collection as an investment, more of a personal consumption device. But let's see, what do I like? I used to collect baseball cards.
Okay,
Right, and we can make the argument that is an investment, but you have to find the right player, the right card, the right manufacturer. It's challenging, and even finding the right car right now can be difficult to see what's going to go up in value. Obviously, cars have limited production, could be an investment, but I think that you want to have something that gives you the ability to immediately get out of that. Real estate's a little more challenging because you have the physical holdings. You could go with things happening with my internet here because it just dropped connection, but they'll be back up here in a second. So some of that got edited out. I don't know why.
Okay, can you hear me now?
No, you and I were perfect the whole time. What's really weird is you and I were perfect the entire time. But the feed dropped for somebody. Yes. Okay. Nat says it wasn't fiber today. Fiber got installed.
Hearing you okay this side. So, yeah.
All right. Well,
hey man, this is what happens when it's live. At least people know it's live. Man.
Yes. And I'm messaging to them. My internet's totally fine on all these things. It's just for some reason this feed. So maybe it's my computer. Not 100% sure why. But all right. It's reconnected now. Give me your kind of takeaways and last minute thoughts on alternative investments, because the high level stuff I think people get, options, futures, Forex. There's some of this exotic pieces which I think does hold a place in someone's portfolio, but I think it should be a small amount because of the risk factor.
My final take on it. So you're asking me, whether going for the alternatives, if I think there's anything out there that's at least worth considering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're not a crypto guy.
I'm not a crypto guy. You start, and it's very rare you ask me a question I don't have an answer bang straight at you. And it's not. And I thought long and hard about this, and we were talking about it prepping on the show just before as well. But I just always feel, and I stick by my opinions, is the biggest problem you have with alternative investments is fads and trends. Yeah. It's what's in fashion. It's fashionable investing. And you know what? I've never been one to have to feel the need to follow fashion. I'd rather walk my own path and go from that. And sometimes you'll be ahead of the game on stuff, and sometimes you're not. But for me, if I had to pick something, tried and trusted, I'm going to say wine, Merlin. And that comes from my wife. Wine. I've got friends who've done very well in that, but I mean, again, I don't even know if I'd call it an alternative investment these days, because, wine has stood the test of time. You can, and I just like the sound of having a great bourbon collection anyway. So, I'll give a thumbs up to that. But yeah, really for me, tried and tested is always where I'll go. And I would warn anybody, that, just always be aware of the trend and what's cool and what's fashionable factor with an alternative investment. And in today's day and age, we've got so many great opportunities in centralized, regulated markets. It's what I would say, take the time to learn about those, dip in smaller, and trust me, to get a decent bottle of wine, you could actually open up a Forex trading account for a fraction of the price.
That's true. Well, and I tell you what, regardless of what it is you're looking to trade or invest in, please do your due diligence, because there's a bunch of scammers out there. There's a bunch of people trying to sell you. They'll try to sell you a $2 chuck if they remove the cork on a really nice bottle of Bordeaux, and they'll put that $2 chuck in, reseal, and it looks all natural and neat. So whether you're buying wine or gold coins or even comic books, I mean, the knockoffs and imitations out there are crazy. There were stories about people taking lead bars, dipping them in gold, so it looks like a nice gold bar, has all the weight. I mean, I don't know. It's unfortunate, because when there's an opportunity for someone to rob somebody else, there's always somebody that will step up and take that opportunity and exploit it. So be very careful in these alternative investments. That's why personally I would say 95%, well, if you take out real estate, 95% of my is going to be in centralized markets, futures, options, Forex, equities. I do have a bunch in cryptos, which is speculative investments, but it's one of those things that I earmarked that, knowing that there would be risk involved with that one. So
just a closing thought on what you said, and you mentioned, you've been involved in crypto and you've kept it speculative. That's great advice. If you truly have, and people can get good gut feelings, do research and find a little hidden gem. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. You did it with crypto. I missed that boat. I would just say, just don't put all your eggs in that basket.
Yeah.
Why don't you allocate a small percentage of your portfolio that you're comfortable with, and write it off and say, hey, I'm going to put it into this, and if it doesn't work, I accept the consequences. But, don't go betting the whole house on it. And then you might have a pleasant surprise. And you know what? If you don't get a pleasant surprise, you can still have a big chunk of your portfolio in a very safe, happy way as well. So I think that's great advice, Merlin. And, treat it what it is. Treat it more as a speculative nature. And, hey, call it a gamble. Call it a punt. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? But control it at all times.
Yep. Risk management, number one. Sam, I know we got to wrap up here, and hopefully we'll get stable through all the way to the end of it here. Anything new on your horizon? Any announcements or anything you want to share with our viewers?
Yeah, so as you know, I was working, with Online Trading Academy for many years, and I've now parted ways with those guys. And I wish all of the students and all my colleagues great success. It's been an absolute blast. It just came a time for me to kind of move on and forge my own path as well. So I actually am still at the moment. I do have a number of things in the works, some very cool stuff. I've got a great guy I'm working with at the moment, developing some very, very cool option stuff as well. I'm not going to leave the teaching world behind, because it's been in my blood for so long now. Yeah. But I'm not in a rush to make any big announcements, because it is all happening. It's all there. But I'm doing it right, Merlin. I want to make sure the infrastructure's there, the technology's there, the service is there. And it won't be very long, but it's definitely happening. So the best place I think anybody can reach out to me, and I've been getting a lot of questions and emails, is through my Twitter page, and it's @SamEvansTrader, @SamEvansTrader. So if you can follow me on there, you can message me on there. I'll be doing a few things coming up on FX Street as well, but watch this space. You will be the first to find out when it's happening. It's happening. I'm just not rushing it. It's all just happening. It's just in a good pace.
Cool. Well, when you make those announcements or want to make an announcement, feel free to come back on this program. I have a feeling you're going to be more of a regular on this program. Hopefully next week it'll be much more stable, because it is showing I'm dropping frame rates now, so I don't know what's going on.
I'd love to be on it. I'll be around if you need me. I love being on here. Thank you for having me, my friend.
Awesome, Dan. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic weekend, my friend, and cheers to you. Hope you have a nice happy hour here soon.
Likewise. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Stay safe out there, okay? Stay healthy.
All right, take care. Guys, that was Sam Evans. Sorry for those drops. I'm not sure exactly why that happened. All of a sudden, you're right. Nat was saying the frame rate jumped up here. Yeah, it spiked up here pretty good just a little bit ago. I don't know why that happened. Hopefully, we can get through the end of the show here today. I will no Instagram for Sam, but I will encourage him to get an Instagram account for you guys out there. And also let us know what things you want us to talk about, because I have all those social media platforms out there right now, and honestly, I suck at it. I am not a social media guy. But I've got the YouTube, I got the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Not really putting a lot of stuff on there, but I would like to put more, so let me know kind of what you guys would like to see. As you can see, I did answer a question today from Jorge, who sent it on in at tradermerlin.com, or you can go to tradermerlin@gmail.com to email me directly, or just go to the website there to find out more information. As always, click the thumbs up button if you like today's show, or subscribe, all that good stuff. We appreciate it if you do help support us in that way. That's really the best way you can do it. Share it out there, tell your friends about it. A lot of people don't know that I'm doing this show right now. We had a lot of followers on Power Trading Radio, but I didn't want to do a mass blast out to Power Trading Radio because of OTA. I don't know if that'd be resurrected at some point. Hopefully it will be. But not 100% sure if it will. So for now, I'm just doing Trader Merlin. You guys have any feedback, comments, questions, send it in at tradermerlin.com. You can hit the little button there to send on in. And that will do it for us on behalf of Sam, Evans, and myself. Hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Cheers to you. I'll see you guys on Monday. Take care.